Hello, hello. You're listening to another wonderful episode of Inside the Techosystem. I'm your host, David Chuka, and I'm joined by my co-host, Emmanuel.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm pretty pumped about this episode. Chuka, continue, please.
You're pumped about every episode. Please stop lying.
I have to be,
Man, do you think New City Who This should have come before this episode? Because,
Ooh, literally. It's not, well, I don't think so. It's not really a big deal,
Well, for those who don't know, I'm going to reintroduce this podcast. You're listening to Inside the Techosystem, a fun podcast where we bring you fun and insightful topics about tech and its ecosystem in Nigeria and beyond. Because now, Emmanuel is no longer with us in the trenches.
Please, Nigeria is not trenches. Thank you. My beloved country is not trenches.
Do you have anything to say to your wonderful listeners who wishes you were here with us,
All I have to say is I don't know, man. What am I supposed to say? I'm grateful for another phase of my life, but Nigeria is not the trenches.
Okay. Whatever he says, can't wait to join you, bro. Moving on. Today's episode is actually very, very interesting and insightful as well because, when we first started this podcast, we tried as much as possible to, carry everyone along with the technical and the non-technical listeners that we know that we do have, right? So we try to keep every episode as relatable as possible. And, we could have gone ahead to do all the technical episodes in the world, and like some of my friends say, sometimes it sounds like we're speaking gibberish, but we're not, right? So if you are part of those people that think we speak gibberish all the time, and look, this episode is definitely for you. We have a very interesting guest in our midst today. Is he in our midst or in the area?
What are you church?
We're not in church. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. We have a very interesting guest on the show today, and his name is Luke. Luke is a very knowledgeable person.
What's his surname?
Areas.
You have to differentiate, distinguish.
Luke is going to say his surname by himself.
Nice. Okay.
Luke. Okay, let me try again. Luke Ndatigh. Did I say that right? Luke.
Yeah, you did.
Thanks, man.
Nice,
Thanks.
nice first try.
Right.
Yes, I'm very particular about names. I don't like to.
Yeah, that's a good job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much. So in this episode, we're basically going to be talking about non-technical roles or the non-technical aspects of tech. It's kind of like a broad topic, but we are using Luke's experiences and Luke's career-ish to just mirror the episode a little bit. So the aim of this episode is to just try and explore all the other roles we have in tech that is not coding or design, because it feels like that's all we talk about all the time. So Luke is on team non-technical today. I'm also on team non-technical because
if I slap you.
All right, so I'm just going to hand over the floor to Luke to just tell us a little bit about himself. Just introduce yourself a little bit for us, Luke. Hey, Luke.
Hey guys. Well, I have a few comments. Firstly, I'll say that I'm a huge fan of this podcast.
Woo! Hey, woo!
I'm sure you had like a million listens in your past episode, and like about 95% of that like came from me.
Oh, you're super fan.
Yeah, and I think the second comment I'll make is that do you know that Emmanuel actually doesn't know what I do, and he just did. So I could just come here now and be like, oh, so Emmanuel, like I think there's like we made a mistake. Like, hold up, like I'm actually a database administrator or a backend dev, and yeah, but actually like I actually do non-technical stuff, and at the moment I live in Amsterdam, and I work as an operations specialist at Adyen. So you've probably not heard about Adyen, but like we are like the we're like the non-sexy Stripe. So yeah,
Yo, you're wrong for that, man. You're wrong for that.
and but like I think the cool thing about us is that we process for like the big players in the world, like companies like Meta, which is Facebook, Microsoft, Uber, Spotify, Airbnb, Twitter, Nike, like all those guys, like
Damn,
those are our customers.
money.
So yeah, and usually what people ask me is that so what do you do, like operation specialist? And
it sounds it sounds like a whining statement.
guy, like the first thing I say is that, to be honest, I don't know what I do.
Mm, mm. That's what everyone says.
Yeah. Well, actually, so what I do is let's say so I'm on the platform operations team, and what I do is more like project initiations and management that have to do with let's say technical stuff.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, incident management. Let's say visa is not visa cards are like having a high error rate in a particular region.
Okay.
So I need to go and find out what's causing that. They'll manage like the process. Maybe we need to have something like a penalty box to route the payment through another
Bro,
out.
I'm so
Yeah,
lost.
it's more like project management that
Okay.
is not too much front facing, but not too
Okay.
much back facing.
Okay.
So front facing project management is more like uh let me see a marketing manager.
Oh, okay.
Then back facing project management is an engineering manager.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah. So
so you're
like I
dealing
sort
with
of like
more
connect
people.
both kinds of
Oh,
sides
okay.
together.
Um,
I think you guys probably don't understand like anything I said.
you know what? You know what? For the
Yeah.
first time on this podcast, we have actually invited a guest that will make us feel lost, and I feel like that's a step in the right direction for this podcast. We shouldn't know everything all the time. We
Exactly,
should try and learn.
exactly.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing a lot of you may be wondering, okay, what's so special about Luke? I mean, non-technical in tech probably brought in, a I think when we had the product manager episode, that was also someone that was technical per se. Oh, he was technical, but like, product manager is still a little bit, you
Yeah,
still have to,
technical.
yeah. But something very interesting about Luke is Luke actually used to be very technical in tech. So a lot of you may not know this, but the next question we're going to explore right now is we're going to explore Luke's technical career because Luke used to actually be an active programmer, right? He used to be an active developer, an active coder, database, front end, back end, every end, right? And now Luke has literally lost us with the whole operational specialist thing. So we're going to have Luke tell us a little bit about his experiences in tech and some highlights in his technical career as far as he can remember because I know that was like decades ago, right? It's been a very long time.
Yeah, roughly 3 decades ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Very
I
old
love how
man.
you're playing along.
Okay, so my career in tech. So I think everyone has had this phase in their tech career of AKA freelancing. Like that's what we call it freelancing, or you say you're an indie hacker. But like within the ecosystem, we know that is called joblessness.
He's right, guys. He's right.
Yeah, but like to make it sound like very like hip, you just say I'm an indie hacker. Yeah, so like during that period, I got like an opportunity to work for like some top fashion brands. And I can't like say a lot about those companies and stuff like that. But like I built stuff like web scrapers, QR code like generators, like for making payments. Um, I used to do like backend stuff. So like worked a lot with backend like infrastructure kind of stuff. That infrastructure word is very like especially if you say fast infrastructure. So like working with like provisioning load balancers and scaling traffic. At some point, I built a POS backend. Although I just discovered, like when I joined Adyen, that they don't call it POS, rather they call it POS. And now it's called IPP because our POS is scaling to a larger, like let's say, dimension. So it's called IPP, in person payments.
Mm.
So, so like when I was saying POS in the office, like everybody was just like, with oh God, you talk about me.
Who's this
Yeah,
local
like
man?
yes. So I built a POS backend in the past.
Sounds so
Uh,
weird. Nah.
yeah. You can
Please,
tell me
please don't say pause on this podcast. Please. You can say that. You can say that at work.
okay, yeah. So yeah, I also worked somewhere else where I was an engineering team lead. Although I didn't I wasn't lead till like the project realized saw the light of day. But like at the moment, word on the street is that the product is doing almost 1 billion naira per month. I think that's something good.
Oh
And
wow!
Wait, is it the same product we're talking about?
we're not talking about.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Did I work on that
You guys
product?
have, you guys
Eh?
have, you
No,
guys
no.
have,
Okay, okay.
you guys have a connection on this one, don't you?
Yes, of course we do.
Oh wow!
We go way back, you know.
Actually, yeah, me and I will actually go way back.
Mm.
Um, what's my first experience with Awo? Do you remember our first experience?
I think I remember we were in 200 level. You were using one particular laptop, I think HP or so. We're on the
Wow.
top floor, I think fourth floor.
Yeah,
In
B03.
yes, yes. So
Guys,
I think
I'd
I was
love to
asking
hear all about this.
I was asking you
But this is
about
not
the
a
laptop. I wanted to
reunion.
buy it, I think.
But I wanted to buy my laptop.
Yeah.
Before, I think you slide me and you went and bought a better laptop.
Yes, of course. If
Yeah,
I didn't
He's
buy a
an
better
Ilorin
laptop,
man. That's how
I
they
won't
do.
be in tech.
actually, like if Awo had bought my laptop, maybe his career wouldn't have scaled this much.
Mm.
Yeah, so like
Ah.
okay, I think I'll also talk about like some things that are like, let's say, bad experiences or
Yeah,
like
for sure, for sure.
yeah. So I think one thing I'll need to add, like along with my experiences in tech, is like failing in job applications.
Mm.
So I actually got, was it 2019? I applied to Paystack, and did I get to the last? I don't know how many stages, but I went far, and I got rejected. And then it was even a product management role I was applying
Oh, okay.
with
It
zero
wasn't.
product management experience. So like I don't, if I'm not even sure I knew what product management was then. I just,
And you went far.
yeah, like no, no,
That's
like,
impressive.
yeah, you could prepare for like those kind of things. Like
For sure.
I think the most important thing about like getting a job is like passing your CV viewing stage. Like that's really the, once you get an interview, like you can. And I think I also got rejected at FairMoney. Yeah, I got rejected at FairMoney. So like there are a lot of rejections from international companies.
Mm.
The list is very long, so I won't go. But it's, let's say, it's close to, maybe close to 400, something like that.
Whoa,
Like yeah.
Damn.
So,
bruh. One
but
rejection for the whole year.
Yeah.
Per
Everyone,
day.
you see that you just need one yes.
You go
You have a lot
collect.
of no's,
Everybody
but you
go
just need
collect.
one yes.
Yeah. So I think like major projects I worked on was doing my internship at NSML, which is like the shipping area of NLNG. Was I
Mm.
built this crew management app for like HR officers to synchronize, to plan for some things. And there was this algorithm called OCIMF, Officer Matrix Algorithm. So what that means is that if you're a captain, the assistant, which is the first officer, and your years of experience, when you add both of them, it should be a minimum of 5 years.
Mm.
Mm.
So when you have like hundreds of like officers, like you now need to be matching people, and people need to be going off shift, people need to go on leave, like other, like there are so many factors you need to put into place. So like that was like my first major project I worked on, and I think sometime in 2020, I also wrote, I also started this startup, and like I also worked on a particular algorithm, which was like a knapsack algorithm to pack stuff. So initially the algorithm was working at big O and n cube. Then later on, doing some data structures and stuff like that, it's shrunk to like big O m times n. So
Hmm.
like from like what is it cubed? Like cubed,
Quadrants.
yeah, quadratic complexity.
Yeah.
You know what?
It now came to like linear. So
You
like
know
I think
what?
that was like a major thing that I worked
Look, first of all, when I started this episode,
on.
made it clear to everyone that we're going to do a non-technical episode. But it looks like we've started drifting to a technical episode. So
No,
I'm going to
we have
formally
to show the
apologize.
contrast. We have to show the
Yes,
contrast.
I'm going to formally apologize. You see, Luke here used to be a badass, right? He used to, he just talked about all his experiences. And personally, I mean, I've known some of these things, so I'm not completely mind blown. But what I'm mind blown about is the next question I'm about to ask him now, which is why and when did you decide that okay, I'm going to move to more non-technical roles now? Right. What inspired that?
Okay, so I think firstly I'll talk about like role models. So
Mm.
I've necessarily never had like a technical role model.
Oh
Uh
wow.
yeah. So like my role model is Peter Thiel. Like I have
Oh,
Peter
okay.
Thiel. Emmanuel is like
0 to 1.
yeah, the 0 to 1 guy.
Okay.
Peter Thiel is your role model. John Doerr is like also a venture capitalist. Alexander the Great,
Oh wow.
Aliko Dangote, like those are actually like role
Oh,
models.
I knew the Dangote one for sure. I knew the Dangote one.
If you're on his WhatsApp, you know that.
So there's no footballer
Actually,
your role model
is
is
plenty.
now wow, no basketball player too.
Actually, none. I don't even know. I
I,
know Black Mamba, but I don't know Black Mamba's real.
I know if you know more about Lebron James, he will be part of your role models and Steph. Because
Probably,
Lebron is a
probably.
big investor and Andre Iguodala too is a big investor.
Yeah. So I think like all that like will I say I don't want to say idolizing, but like looking up to those guys sort of like makes me see how okay, you guys have seen the Silicon Valley series. So the character I admire the most is probably the most short-lived character, which is
That Gregory.
Gregory.
Mm,
Yeah, so like the level of knowledge like that guy has, like those kind of things like blow my mind.
yeah.
So like those are the kind of people I really look up to. And over time, so since I was a kid, I actually love to tinker with stuff. Um like my mom actually had this thing that if you buy it, she says is that if you buy a toy for Luke today, like it's going to be spoiled today. But in the next 4 days, she's sure that like the toy will be okay. Because like I'll spoil it, then like I'll now try to assemble it back together.
I'm sorry,
Uh,
I'm to cut in there. The
mhm.
difference between me and you is that the toy remains sport.
Guy, I, I think and it wasn't just for toys. Like even our TV, like there was this old like CD player. I'm sure that the young people listening to this podcast probably don't know what a CD player
I
is.
know, right?
Yeah, but like this CD player, like I dismantled, like just to know how like things work and stuff. And if I think when I had the PlayStation 2, like there was a time the lens broke. Was it the lens or something like that? Then like I went to buy it and like
Wait,
fix it.
I think I know what that is. Lens. It rings a bell.
Yeah, like the stuff that scans the CD. Like there's this
Ah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah. I remember.
so like all those kind of technical stuff. Somehow, I wanted to be an astronaut. At some point, I wanted to be an archaeologist. But I found out that like astronaut doesn't pay like that. Then then an archaeologist, my mom was like, "Oh, you're going to go about digging like all your life," so it discouraged me. Then I had a computer like pretty early, like all these old Dell, these laptops that like instead of it to be wide, it is high, like it goes up like the dimension. So like I had that one, and we were paying for this ISP Hyperia or something. So it was pretty slow. It's all these dial-up connections. Is it dial-up they call it? Where it's like you're making a phone call. It will take like 2 minutes to connect. So like I was now exploring a lot of stuff. Then I built my first. It's either HTML or X is it XML? Like my first website, I built it, and
XHTML.
like I'm not sure of it. Then what was there was like, this is Luke. Welcome to my
Mm.
first website, or welcome to my website, and it
Wow.
was in Times New Roman.
Oh,
Then yeah, after some time, I discovered CSS, and I added some color. Fast forward, I did computer science like in school. First, I was in computer engineering,
Okay.
and I like my parents, like my mom was now like, oh, we need to change that. Like, you may not really like this. So I found out that like computer engineering is like very like you just be welding stuff. Like no offense, so, no offense, but like those guys like yeah,
Wow.
they're welding stuff.
computer engineering,
They are
welding,
coming for you on this podcast, man. Just get ready.
not even mechanical engineering.
I'll drop your email. You should
Please
looks.
don't interview a computer engineer after me. So that I don't like, but it's really cool stuff. Like I think Iron Man should be a computer engineer. Oh, he's a mechanical engineer. So
It has
like,
to be a mechanical
sorry,
engineer.
yeah. So like that's like bad for like computer engineers. You can't be Iron Man. So
Oh, come on, man. Come on.
yeah. So like I switched to computer science, and like I always wanted to know how things work, but like I didn't care so much about coding till uh, well, I think Azu. There was this teacher we had Azu that the whole school hated. This guy, he taught C. I think that was 200 level, yeah. And like I remember how he taught C. It was so like mind blowing that I went back that day and I memorized the 32 keywords of C, the C programming language. Like I knew everything, and like I was now like trying to manipulate arrays and stuff like that. So like all that journey landed me into like software development, mostly backend engineering, because CSS is like the hardest thing that CSS is probably like the most complex thing that I've ever seen. like if you want to punish me, just strap me to a chair and give me a div and tell me to center it on the screen. Like you've
I've
punished me.
personally seen Luke work on a particular CSS page for 6 hours.
Yeah, like, and I think I was just trying to do vertical like centering or something like, and in the end, it was this friend of mine, Faith, is a mutual friend of ours, like Faith, that even helped me do after spending the whole day. So yeah, so like the whole move, I think I was always interested in like business kind of stuff. Aside like knowing technical stuff, like I was and like having those role models. So it got to the point that I wasn't feeling, will I say, enough fulfillment in my technical career. Then I okay, on the side I had this fish farm that I was running. So like that was non-technical stuff, but we can argue that agriculture is tech in some form. But like yeah, so like that whole thing, like getting to know like run a business and stuff. So I just wanted to know like how businesses run, and I started reading business books and stuff like that. Till I started consulting. So I was still like coding, but I was consulting for like small business owners. So I started consulting for bigger business owners. Till, will I say, word now entered the street that like Luke is that business guy and stuff like that. Then I landed my first job like out of
Wow.
tech. Yeah. So I think
So that
that's
was
really yeah.
it. Must be nice.
hmm
So So like that was a really, really interesting like way of entering the other side. I mean, I would have expected something like you thought about it for days, you were really thinking, and then it came to you one day when you climbed the mountain or something. But like that's how random things can be in tech. One day you're doing this, and the next day you're doing that. That's really interesting to hear actually. So like the next question me I would like to ask would be should everybody get into tech? So this question obviously is vague and it sounds like where is this coming from? It's not even related to what we're talking about. But like in your view, you've joined two sides of tech. I mean there are other sides, but like they are majorly technical and non-technical side, and maybe the entrepreneurial side. But do you think everybody should be in tech? That's everybody as per everybody that works should be in tech. What do you think?
Okay, so like one way or the other. So just to clarify, like you mean tech is like coding or design, like
So tech,
the,
so this
Mm,
is
yeah.
tech. Tech is a company that uses technology and hires people in tech, basically. So a company like Google, a company like Amazon, a company like even a company like KPMG. You get any company that uses technology
Okay, okay,
in any way.
okay. So I think I'll say yes and no. And primarily because I think people should chart their careers based to maximize for certain outcomes, and this outcome can be in terms of income. So if you want to make money, like being a stockbroker is like a much better job than that's if you're a good one than being a programmer, and you can also maximize for impact. I think like being a software engineer is a good way to make impact, although you may not really be seeing it like directly, but yeah, like software is highly scalable and stuff like that. And when it now comes to things like entrepreneurship and your non-profit work, I think like we can admit that those come with like other externalities, like things that are not really directly a contribution of your day-to-day work. So in terms of the yes side, um, there's this quote by Andreessen Horowitz, which is software is eating the world. And what that means is that, or like what that implies is that internet software is actually the only thing that exists right now that it's produced on a constant or a linear scale and is distributed on an exponential scale. And to make it easy to take in, like
That's
if
a point I think I would now argue with these days. The
okay,
linear and exponential thing. So you know the way we present it to
mhm,
the average person, we tell them, "Oh, you just build one app and then it will save millions." But you don't talk about this the cost of running millions of servers. You don't talk about how like the more customers you have, the more you have to like load on the back end. So, well, that's by the way. But the software is the same. Yes.
yeah, but the difference between that and like other fields is that like in terms of distribution, um like the distribution grows in accordance to the production. For example, now if I am Toyota and I want to make 30 cars, I
Okay,
need
I
to
think I
make
understand what you're saying.
I need to actually make 30 cars. So like that's like the whole difference. So like a career in quotes internet software or technology like is highly scalable, like in terms of impact, and you like when your impact is highly scalable, you capture a lot of much more value compared to a non-scalable like field. Or it's not that like what you're doing is bad or it's not like whatever, like but it's like that's just like the outcome of it. And yeah, so another thing about the yes side is that tech companies are actually likely to give you equity or some form of like compensation that is an ownership of the firm. And why is that? Because a lot of like tech projects or tech companies, they take a very long time to produce results. So there's actually this company I've been following recently called SpinLaunch. So what they are doing is they are building like suborbital accelerators, and they've been doing that for like 8 years. So what that means is that if you want to launch a rocket ship, you don't need to you don't need to have a rocket engine. Rather, you just need to spin it and shoot it up in the air.
Like the century Zifuga or century Peter thing.
So don't confuse me.
Like that. I think I saw it. So like they just spin, then launch into space.
you
So
guys are
like
geeking out on this podcast again. Once again, I've been called to warn you guys that this is a completely non-technical episode. All
okay,
right.
okay.
I'm just going to move on to our next question, which is sort of
I don't.
which is
Sorry,
sort of
I don't think Lucas said no. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
wanted to say
Okay.
no side.
okay. Well, you've said the yes, but you've not said the no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Everything in my head was yes, yes. Get into tech. Get into tech. Get into tech. All right. For people that do not want to
Okay.
get into tech, please, Luke is about to explain why you should not get into tech. All right.
Yeah.
I'm listening. Over
Okay.
to you, Luke.
So yeah, so like I said before, why tech is like it lets you maximize your impact and your income. I can also tell you why like other industries can maximize that. So basic economics, or not it's not basic economics, sha, but like in theory it's more like labor
Labor, favor over labor.
no, but it's just like
Emmanuel,
a
please. Please,
It's like it's a
Emmanuel.
popular labor rule, but like people don't really talk about it. But what it means is that anything that is like capital intensive, labor intensive, or high risk of some sort would determine or will give you high returns. And yeah, we know that internet software is labor intensive in terms of man hours and the amount of concentration you need to do. But there are a lot of things that are also like that. For example, like people will tell you that, oh, like the average programmer earns maybe 100K as a starting salary. But nobody will tell you something that like the average income of like a fresh out of PhD researcher in the pharmaceutical industry is about 250K,
Ooh.
like USD.
Sorry.
So like,
Which pharmaceutical? Who is? Which company is that? Please let me
like
write it. Let me write
a
it
lot of
down.
a lot of pharmaceutical companies pay that amount.
Yeah, what they're
Wow.
Like
doing is actually really. I mean, which have you seen cheap drug before?
cheap.
Drugs are
I
not cheap
prefer. I
now.
prefer. I prefer not to speak. I know some cheap drugs, but I prefer not to speak.
So the thing is that like drugs like they're often like not researched as often, but it takes time like to produce like a good drug.
Mhm.
We saw how long like a lot of vaccines like took in the past, but and now we saw how like short it took for like Ebola vaccine and like COVID vaccine. But something like malaria vaccine, I think it's over like it's like 120 years they've been working on it. So like it's not easy to like work without seeing the fruit of your labor. So you need to be compensated well. And even other industries like construction. Uh, I'm from Lagos. I lived in Lagos for some point. So Lagos has like a housing deficit of 2 million people. If you can build a scalable way to build houses or apartments for people, if you can invent that, it's not a software job, but being the one to invent that would put you like so many years ahead of like the richest people. And we see people like Aliko Dangote is the richest man. The guy is just doing cement, right? And he still has he still has a big market, like 2 million. Like that's the number of like houses he needs to supply cement for. So it's very big. I think even another industry that is not looked into is sand. So I was reading about the sand mining mafia of India, and that was like, was it 2010 or something? They had to actually arrest a couple of people because like the industry is not regulated, and these guys they were the only ones mining sand. Like they would just buy like land where
Like
there's
the way you
sand.
mine Bitcoin.
Yes, and because they own the
Did you
land, no
say
one
yes?
else. No, like it's a very high barrier like entry
uh,
job kind of thing. So like there was now a mafia around sand mining.
wow,
So
that's
like
crazy.
even in the world, like sand mining is not really like regulated so much. And if you have a monopoly in a country, like that's big money. Um, there are also a lot of things like recycling, even public health care. Like 250 million people like get, or there are 250 million like people who go to the hospital in the world per year for malaria, and like 500,000 people died last year, so if I'm not mistaken, from malaria. So like going into healthcare, public health, or owning a hospital, or even being a doctor, like you'll be paid very well. I think in America, like doctors are like really paid very well,
Yeah.
and like it's just a huge opportunity. And I also think that like no, you should not get into tech if you want to beat your own path. If you're an artist, if you're even a musician, like there are a lot of musicians who are like much richer than the average software engineer in Lagos.
Mm.
So like those are like very good opportunities. So I think that parents that are listening to this podcast, they should actually like encourage their kids to chase their dreams, because you can only become the best and you can maximize your income and impact if you are
Yeah.
like in a field that you love, like
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah. For sure. So basically, get into tech if your head carry 'em. If your head no carry 'em, you know, find maybe play football or start music or something. All right, you
And be
got
the
it.
best at it too.
And be the best at it, because I mean, if you're not world best, what's the point? All right. But I think I would still argue that for some reason, maybe try and chook your head inside a little, see what's going on, because the world is changing. Almost everything
And
is
this time will
looking
change too.
tech like in a way.
You guys do that reference?
So like I said before, you had to say the con part of your last point. I wanted to ask about some possible non-technical roles. For people listening to this, you on one hand would know for a fact that everything is not all about coding and design, right, or machine learning or AI or whatnot. Some of these businesses, I mean, the tech is what builds the business, right? But to sustain the business, there's some pretty very, very important non-technical roles that need to exist for that business to stay afloat. So I'd like you to talk more about some of these possible non-technical roles and just to enlighten people listening um, further. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think uh I think like I'll just like speak from the fintech industry perspective. So I think like there are a lot of opportunities because at the moment I'm not sure of the entire ratio of Adyen, but I think our biggest um let's say our biggest department is actually account management, which is almost 20% or like 25% of the company. And what account managers do is like they are basically the ones who speak to our customers like Facebook and the likes and be like, hey, so we see that you're in a particular market and maybe you have 10 million users there. Like, why don't you just use us to process payments and do
Mm,
onboard you? Like things like that. So like that is like a very good thing that is very non-technical because being an account manager, you don't need to have like a lot of technical knowledge, but you need to know you need to have good communication skills, and I think that's something that almost everyone can develop.
mm.
And there are also fields like HR, like there are software engineers, they need to be taken care of. I, I saw on Twitter about the whole tech bosses kind of thing, and I was like toxic tech bosses. So I think people who are not on Twitter can just go to Twitter and just type toxic tech bosses,
Mm.
tech
I think
about
horrible bosses.
Horrible
horrible
bosses. Yeah.
bosses.
We'll link that
Yes.
in the show notes as well.
Okay. Yeah. So like being a good HR person, you need to ensure that like there are proper like performance management systems, and like you need to ensure that there's also proper feedback from employees and stuff like that, so that um I don't want to say there won't be horrible bosses, but like so that your employees can be able to cope with
Yeah.
each other better, either as a manager or as like a lower level staff. Um i i also think that even like things like legal and compliance, like that's like is highly changing in the world. Like there are things like um, ESG now, where they'll be like, okay, you need to not exploit the environment so much. You need to conserve, like maybe you cannot be mining from a particular place for so long, or you need to reduce your carbon emissions. So there are a lot of things that people with like the weirdest kind of interest. Like I've once spoken to someone who collects flowers, and this person has like more than 50 different kinds of species of flowers like in his backyard. So like I'm sure like there's something like that for you. I know at Adyen like we have like very nice flowers like in the office and stuff like that. I'm not sure there's someone who is dedicated to maintain that, maybe, but I know that like companies would at some point would have all this kind of people.
Mm.
So like there's always something for a non-tech kind of person there.
So
And
basically, it's just like, putting your head out there to just look for opportunities where your own skill set would suffice for you to like get a job in a tech company or something, or
yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
kind of like
I think even
be involved.
personally from even seeing things on Twitter, I know the non-technical roles are gaining attention.
Mm.
I would say some kind of product management may be non-technical depending on your product.
Yeah.
There's product management, there's program management also.
Yeah.
there's
There's
project
You
management.
know,
yes,
I
there's
actually,
actually so I think engineering test, something like that, or QA testers,
Yeah,
things
yeah,
around like making sure the technical side is working, but without
yeah.
being technical.
with
Eh.
You
with
know,
Q testers, they just type npm test or
No, no,
something.
no.
I
so
actually looked
so
at
there's
a
QA
tech
guys.
company's I looked
So
at a
the
tech company's careers page the other day, and like a full career page, there was no technical role, there was no engineering or anything there.
That's interesting.
You know, that was actually fun for me because I was like, oh wow,
So
you guys are not hiring
so
engineers
yes,
today.
just like my company now, there's a lot of account management, I think account managing roles. So dealing with specific let's say the big our biggest users or our biggest customers, like they will have like their own personal account manager. So there's that. There's sales. Sales is like the biggest part of tech that I know that
Guy, like
like every company always
Mm-hmm.
company.
has. uh
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's sales, there's customer, so there's customer success, there's customer support. I think success is a different kind of customer support.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's workspace specialists, people that ensure the workspace is good.
yeah.
There's employee experience manager, people that basically just make you happy in the office. There's a lot
Happy.
of those kind of roles, and those roles obviously
Those are
don't
for
have.
big companies, sir. Nigerian companies don't have
No,
any
no,
of
it's not
this.
big. Oh. All you have to do is get funded, honestly. So,
Mm.
so the thing is, for those technical roles I just mentioned, right? Sorry, those non-technical roles, there's no straight path. Maybe for sales there is, but there are some that don't really have a straight path. For instance, workspace specialist. What's your resume going to look like? Do you get?
Mm.
So basically, there's those opportunities are kind of, I don't want to say easy, but like there are things that you can actually decide to get into if you want to. Like you just need to just prepare,
If you,
right?
yeah, if you mold yourself into the kind of person
Exactly.
they're looking
It's
for.
almost like coding in a way, because in coding too, you just, oh, I don't know Python. Let me learn Python and then start
Mm.
applying for jobs. Do you get? I know it's not
It's
that
not that
simple,
easy,
but
oh,
it's
everybody. It's not that easy.
it's
Oh.
not
I
that
don't know
simple,
where
but
Emmanuel is coming from.
basically, if you
You
follow that path, I think you can
Python
get in.
1 hour YouTube video, and you've learned your job.
Learn Python in 7 minutes.
Man, those videos. I really looked up to those things when I was younger.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Um,
so we need to speed this up a bit. We spent quite some time. Here's a very interesting question for you. How did you level up your knowledge to the point where you could start applying for jobs? That's assuming that you were prepared to apply for those jobs. So, like, what did you do? How did you feel like? How did you get yourself prepped to the point that, okay, yes, I should apply for these non-technical roles?
okay, so I think like that's the point where you need to have two CVs. So like I actually have one CV that is dedicated for like operations. Then I have another CV for software engineering roles, which I've not updated since 2020. Yeah, like February
God, man.
2020, something like that. Yeah. So I think things that prepared me was um like when I say my role models, the people I wanted to become like, and I was reading a lot of business books. So like it's going to be difficult to get an operations like role if the only experience you've had is running your own business. But if my business grew like significantly, it's good. And if I have consulted in like for operations for other forms of businesses and stepped up the game over time, like that's something that helps me a lot. And something I also love doing is I love reading like academic
Annual
research.
reports.
Yeah, annual report.
What?
Oh my
Man,
goodness. This one is, oh my lord. Oh my lord.
so, I wanted to say academic research papers, but like I also read annual reports a lot. So like I know how like a lot of businesses like they are managed and like a lot of new systems they are put in place and stuff like that. I follow like I have favorite like companies that will I say on my watch list that I want to know everything that is going on. Like I want to know the number of cleaners that work there and stuff like that. So
Luke
so
Luke
you
like
is a
guys, you guys can,
stalker. Is a
you guys
stalker,
can
but for companies.
understand. You can understand why Luke is a special guy now, right?
Yeah, is a special is an
So
operations specialist.
I'll just stop you right there because you've already given us like the high level stuff, which is basically read more, whatever field you're trying to get into, read more
Yeah,
and
for sure.
have like the practical side. So if you are
Mm.
looking to get into operations, you should do more things around managing businesses and operating, I guess.
Yeah.
So so that leads us to the next question, which is so now you've done quite a number of non-technical roles. I know I personally was there when you were handling the operations in our former company, and then now you're still in operations. But at the moment, what do you think you enjoy the most about being an operations specialist? And do you miss being a full-time programmer or
okay, so
full-time
I'll answer
software
this
engineer?
first. Like I don't miss it at all.
Jesus.
Yo,
That
what's
was
that supposed to
shocking.
mean? What's that supposed to mean? We nurtured you. We made you who you are right now.
I
What do you
am your
mean?
Yeah,
father.
You
yeah.
you're
So
just shitting on programmers right now, man.
yeah, so I think like the first thing I love is like the amount of, will I say, bird's eye view like I have of things, like just seeing how things work, and you can actually see a lot of funny things. So the other day, there was something we were talking about that a dev pushed. So they were testing like some POS, like some POS machines, and like they wanted to
We'll
test
let it
like
slide. We'll let it slide.
they wanted to test like the POS machines. Then they wanted to, like, the developer wanted to test it with a GIF of his dog. So he now pushed it to the machine, but it was actually pushed to like a network of machines. So imagine going to a Nike store and you want to pay, then you now see a dog's photo there. so
What?
like, so like if for example I was a software engineer, like, and I'm just coding somewhere, like I won't come across that kind of funny thing. And
I get.
there are a lot of other like sales stories. Like the first time Adyen onboarded eBay, this was actually 5 years ago when they started onboarding.
Mm.
Like the head of payments at PayPal actually blocked Adyen from processing PayPal payments, and we couldn't process PayPal payments till the guy left the company.
Oh wow. Was it personal beef?
It's actually very personal. Like
Oh
you're
my
taking away
goodness.
his largest.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, eBay was like PayPal's largest merchant.
Oh my
So
goodness.
like, so that was one thing, and another thing is like the kind of smart people that I
Mm.
get to meet. If I'm an engineer, I'll just be seeing
Hey,
smart people
stop.
all
Hey, stop it
No,
there.
he's right. He's right.
Is that
You
is
literally
right?
you get
Yes.
numb to the amount of smart people you meet every day working as an engineer. Like your
Oh.
mind does not process
So
it
so
anymore.
so I want to chip something in. I was listening to this
yeah,
podcast by Lex Friedman. So he was like interviewing a scientist, and then he was talking about how in the world scientists were like actually in Nazi Germany. Like how did they get, scientists are supposed to be upright people who are moral and stuff like that. So he was talking about the fact that like we get, like, everybody becomes this cog in a machine where you're just doing your own stuff and not really minding the big picture. And that's what's happening. That what happens a lot of times with scientists, programmers, people that are doing like the technical
yeah,
things. Yeah, so I can
yeah.
understand.
So like, it's something I enjoy, like just getting to meet a lot of people and work on projects with them.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
Man,
mean,
that's
I mean, if it's up to
interesting.
me, I would love to take the blue pill every day, but sometimes you have to take the red pill.
That's a matrix reference, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
So like the people that are working, for instance, the software engineers, we take the blue pill every day. But the
Mm.
guys in operations and the other bed eye view people,
Mm.
they take the red pill. They see the bigger picture.
Mm. All right, all right. Fun fact: I've not seen The Matrix.
Whoa.
I know I'll get slammed for this. I do not care.
Don't watch it.
Um,
Don't waste your
I'll watch
time.
it at my own time. Right.
Emmanuel watched The Matrix last year. Like, so.
Emmanuel. I know for a fact that Emmanuel is worse than all of us. Emmanuel is just seeing the avatar. I guess he's just. I mean, Emmanuel is terrible.
I want
All
to
right.
start watching Picky Blinders too.
Look, I have an interesting question for you. Actually, it's more like when you go to all these shows, they be like, "Oh, what would you like to say to the upcoming generation?" People like that. So, this question is actually advice that you'd like to give people that are currently in your situation. You know, um, Probably doing technical stuff, maybe design or coding all day, but their mind is somewhere else. Like, I want to be in the business side of things. Now, all their experience right now is technical, right? And I know you've talked about um reading stuff and just building yourself to be that kind of person. But is there like a step by step way to? Do you advise they should just quit their jobs and go and start looking for non-technical stuff, or or possibly they can maybe transition into that non-technical role in their company, which I think is going to be a little bit controversial because people are looking for engineers. Now, you that are an engineer, you want to tell your engineering lead that you're not more engineering, you know what I'm saying? So, what kind of advice would you give to people in that situation at the moment?
Okay. So I think the first thing is like have like a role model, like someone you want to be like. or even much better, have a mentor, someone who tells you like a specific thing, like a specific path to go, who has gone through like that same process. And it's going to be much easier to make that transition within the same company. Like I've seen people who transition from software engineering into product management, then from product management into sales. So like those kind of people actually exist. And if you make that transition, like that is of really relatively like close kind of roles, like it's going to be less stressful compared to being a software engineer and say you want to be a finance manager. Like that, you just kill yourself, or you just need to go back to school and probably do accounting and something in secondary school.
Mm.
So like you can always transition to like closely related stuff. And operations is actually something that is overlooked a lot, like in companies, that to the point that even if someone asks you that, oh, what do you do? And you say, an operations analyst, associate, specialist, manager, like all those kind of, they'll be like, what the heck is that? So like it just it just depends on the company, and like it's something you can always transition to, because like as far as you know like how things work like very well, and you have like good people skills, you can always transition to something like that.
Mm.
Mm.
So yeah, like as a technical person, you need to build like your people skills. You need
Okay.
to read a lot about like the career that you want to go towards.
Okay.
And it's also good to have someone that you can speak to, or you
Oh,
can follow, maybe watch, read their books, listen to their podcasts, watch
Okay.
their videos and stuff
Okay.
like that.
Is there a way to
that's nice.
is there a way to reform your resume? Because now you have not edited your technical resume in the last 2 years. Now someone that has the only thing the person has is an engineering resume. Is there a way to reform it? Is there like a template we can include in the show notes for people to
I
look
think
at?
that's where the part of the like basically just reading up things and learning
Mm.
things. So it means like
Because
Yeah.
I'm pretty
you
sure a technical resume is very different from a non-technical one.
very different. Yeah, I've seen non-technical one and I'm like, whoa. So when you're advising somebody about resumes, like you
Eh,
can't advise a non-technical person as a technical person because it's totally different ball games.
yeah, for
So,
sure, for
anyways,
sure.
Like some people put things like Microsoft Excel as tools.
like anything they bust my head.
Actually,
Anyways, so where do you
Yeah.
think the ecosystem is right now, or the ecosystem, right? Where do you think it's heading? But I don't think it's heading anywhere. I think it's always going to be balanced. That's my own opinion.
he's heading
There's
somewhere in
always
Jesus' name. What's your problem with this boy?
no. We're talking about in terms of roles. Do
Oh,
you think
okay.
the ecosystem is no more shining eyes on software engineers and now shining more eyes on the
Or
non-technical
non-technical
side?
people, yeah.
Okay, so I think it really depends on it depends on the company and depends on the market too. So for example now, like if like in the US there are a lot of like startups still coming up, but the rate at which like let's say unicorns are going to be made in Nigeria based on the current trend is actually going to be made faster than the US in the next 5 years. So like every week is estimated like in the next 5 6 years we'll be having a unicorn minted in Nigeria.
Oh
And
wow,
like for you to mint a unicorn, like
I
it's
like
not
the way you
just
said minted.
like an NFT.
like it's not just going to be like developers you're going to need. Like if you are going to be serving, we don't have any Nigerian company that is serving, let's say, 100 million users yet. I know we can have like a 10 million like user startup. I don't think we have a 10 million. I'm not sure.
Banks, okay, banks don't have okay, no startup, sure.
Yeah, but like by the time fintechs get to the scale of banks, we'll be having a lot of non-technical roles. Like imagine the customer support team you need to serve 100 million people. Like it's going to be massive.
Nigerian markets.
Mm,
Yeah, especially in the Nigerian market.
yeah.
you your customer support system has to be really ready.
So like you'll be seeing things like devs will just be like maybe 10% of the total workforce. Because what they are doing is they are basically like just building like the product, distributing it, but they are not managing themselves.
Mm,
They are not acquiring new
mm,
customers. They are not serving customers.
yeah.
They are not even managing the office or
Yeah.
stuff like that. So you'll be seeing like a lot of that like in the near future, let's say in
Mm.
the next 3 4 years.
So basically, devs are going to be basic, just basic devs,
No,
just
no, it's,
doing. No,
no,
it's
So
fine. It's
so
fine.
based
It's
on my
fine. It's
experience,
fine. You
this is
said
what
your
I think
mind.
it is. This is what I think it is. I think devs will not be once the company gets to a particular critical mass, no, not critical mass, like a particular threshold, devs become more like like construction workers. No, that's what it feels
Emmanuel,
like.
you are hereby banned from this podcast for life.
No. It's the fact. The thing is,
That-
the fact is that like a lot of things that get see Tesla's Gigafactory, right? Who built it? Was not human beings that built it. But like nobody talking about those people that built it. Do you get? They're talking about Elon Musk. They're talking about like
Right,
maybe the
right.
person that did the architecture. So like it might get to that in the future.
It's all good. I'm looking to change my career soon anyway, so it won't reach me.
But as long as
Luke,
they're getting paid.
Luke, you've been so amazing on this podcast, on this episode. We're so grateful that we had you here. We had so much fun recording this. And
Yeah, I did too.
yeah, personally, I learned a lot. I don't know about Emmanuel. He's always bashing games for some reason.
But I'm a dev now.
Look, we've come to the end of this episode, and there's something we usually ask our guests on every episode. We used to put it at the beginning before, but now we have decided to start putting it at the end of the episode because it helps us to learn more about our guests and where they're coming from before we ask them the question. So the question goes like this: it's very simple. I don't mean to, shake you up a little bit or anything, but it goes like this: what would you be doing if you were not in tech? Like you had no opportunity in tech, you never built that XHTML website of yours, your mom never bought you any tech toy, you never signed up to do computer engineering, nothing. You never met anybody in tech that could have been, you never heard anything about tech, right? Like you personally, off the top of your head, what do you think you'd be doing if nothing tech was related to your life or your career right now?
Okay. I think so. It just depends. Like a lot of factors need to be considered. Like maybe I
What do you think you'll be doing? Oh God.
so I think I'll be doing something. I'll be like an industrialist, probably in manufacturing or mining.
Andrew Carnegie.
I actually thought he was going to say agricultural.
Well, industrialist still sounds around that same area, so it's
Yeah, and I'll probably also be making movies like.
Oh, like Die Hard.
sounds nice.
Movies like Die Hard, right?
Yeah, like Die Hard and Terminator.
All right, man. Thank you so much once again for joining us on this episode. We appreciate you. We hope we can have you here sometime in the future. Luke, it was great having you once again. Yeah, so we've come to the end of this episode.
All right, guys.
Woo!
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Remember, we release new episodes every other Wednesday, and you can subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. If you would love to connect with us, you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at insidethetechos, or subscribe to our newsletter and shoot us an email at insidethetechosystem@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners. You can follow the host on Twitter as well, Chuka at Siwadiogo and Emmanuel at Olalua_98. All right, see you in the next one.